Hello everybody. This is Dee from the Lee and Dee's Life's Journeys, and I want to talk a little bit about gardening today and the type of gardening I do. So, if you notice my yard, right? I grew up actually in the South Bronx, and there used to be, where I grew up, where there still is actually, it's a Bronx Zoo, and behind it is a botanical gardens. And I used to love to go to the botanical gardens just to see the beauty. Statues, art, flowering. I used to like to see all of that. And that's what I tried to bring to the gardening. Look at this bird up here. So these birds keep trying to make nests in our backyard, right? Which I don't mind because it's a part of nature. But upon them making the nests in our backyard, they get very violent, right? So they'll make the nest there, and then when I walk past a tree that has a nest in it that's in my yard, they come and they attack. They just come zooming in and attacking and acting all crazy. So I don't really like their nest back there. And then you got the other ones that's attacking also. You have all these trees up here, and they make the nests in the backyard. Now, so far, their nests have not been successful. And I know we're off the gardening subject, but the reason why their nests have not been successful is the blackbirds, and I don't remember what you call them. They come and they snatch up the eggs, and they're fighting constantly in the backyard, swooping over my head. So that's the reason why I really don't like the nest in the backyard, and I just try to stop it now because it's getting out of hand. So yeah, as long as you don't bother me, you can nest on, but I don't have time for the other stuff. But can't prevent on nests, so it is what it is, But anyway, that's what they're doing now. They're, gathering pieces from my backyard and bringing them over. Now they're into somebody else's backyard making a nest. Anyway, so the reason why I garden the way I do is because life happens, right? So that means I have other things to do other than just sit here and play in the garden all day. Number one, I'm in Central Florida, and when it gets hot, it gets hot. And I had no intention on coming back here, digging around, sweating to death in the garden. So I garden in a certain way. Look at that. He looks like he's making a nest right up there on my grapes. So, oh well, he can keep it up there. But anyway, so yeah, I garden in a certain way that the garden basically maintains itself most of the time. So every once in a while, if it has not rained, then I come out and I'll go ahead and give it a heavy water, and I mean a heavy water, so I don't have to come back out for a while. But I try not to interfere too much with the garden, and just let the trees do what they do. So when they're young, this is when I do my interference. They say that these trees need sunshine. They don't mean the Florida sunshine, because the Florida sunshine will burn these trees. So I come with a shade cloth until they're old enough to be able to take this full sun. So that's why I'm trying to get a lot of shade in the backyard. I didn't have as much before. I'm getting a lot now. The trees, the fruit trees that I grow, and that's what I mostly grow, is fruit trees. They are usually drought tolerant, and they can usually take care of themselves, right? That's the main reason why I grow these type of trees, because they don't need my interference. Mulberry trees, right? So the only time they need my interference is when I have to go ahead and start chopping because they're getting too tall, and I don't want my fruits all the way up there. Passion fruit, which goes good by itself, how I maintain that, and if you see over here, this passion fruit is, what I do is I come and I cut the sides. So as soon as I see it start reaching over to this part, I just clip it. By me clipping it, it actually forced more passion fruit, and that gives me control over it. I clean, if you look at my former videos, I took all of these leaves and everything off of this trellis up here, because we were not getting any passion fruit because it was so compact with leaves. So we stripped it, and within 45 days it came back with all fruits. That's what we wanted it. And now all we do is, if we see something on the side like that, we clip it. Now the reason why I have time to do that is because I set my yard up a certain way where I can go to each individual tree and take care of it, right? If it needs anything, which basically it'd be water, or while we at it, look, one of the passion fruits actually fell. I don't know if y'all see that one. but she's ready. I'm just going to go ahead and let her wrinkle some. But this thing has a lot of passion fruits. But anyway, you know, pineapple, you don't have to do a lot with, you know, just leave them and they do what they do. And I got a lot of pineapples growing there, right? Meanwhile, you don't have to do a lot with, because I started off with a citrus backyard, and then I switched because I didn't feel like dealing with the problems with citrus. So can you grow citrus in Florida, Central Florida? Yes, you can. Do I feel like growing citrus and dealing with the problems? No, I don't. So these right here are Meanwhile kumquats, and that's the in-between of a citrus, and I don't have the problems, and I get a lot more citrus, right? The peach tree, it is what it is. I just go ahead and trim it every year, and it gives me peaches. You got the mangoes. Mangoes will not grow as heavily in Central Florida as they usually grow in South Florida, but we still get a good amount of mangoes, right? So that's the mango trees. You got the Barbados cherries. My Barbados cherry trees like rain. When rain comes, they start just going to town. They don't really care for the regular water. And as you can see, this year I wind up with mangoes. I have a lot of guava trees, and these are evergreen. The strawberry, the lemon guava, which is the Cattleya guava, and the other strawberry guava, they are evergreen, so they take care of themselves. They also don't like a lot of water. And what I'm learning in my backyard is what likes water, what don't, what needs sun and what doesn't need, what things that don't need sun. And the majority of the things in Florida don't like that bright sun, because that sun beams down. Just imagine standing out here. So I had to do a lot of these shade coverings to protect them until they got to a maturity. So what I started doing is planting trees like this right here, right? This is my fruit punch tree, right? And she's young when we put her in the ground, and she went into shock. She's just coming out of shock. But what I did is I had these papayas sitting around. You'll see a couple of papaya trees I have around, and that protects that until that gets old enough to take care of itself. So I had to wind up covering a lot. And once I started covering them, then they started growing to, you know, their full potential. So this one we just put in the ground. She was in a pot. This is America fruit. And she was sitting over there in that corner, and she was doing excellent. And then we put her in the ground, but look, not much shade there. So I had to put that umbrella on her, and now she's coming back. So what I've learned, and what I'm doing with this is, we have the Logan tree right here, right? So I only got this one fruit tree right here, because she's going to get big enough to eventually shade and help her with the shades. So what I'm learning, because everybody's backyard is different, is what's actually going to work in the backyard. And I don't want to do a lot of work. I just don't want to. It took a lot of work just to get it to where it was. And, you know, that was 2 years of changing things around and everything. And now I finally got it to where I want it to be, right? So basically, I just come out here. I mean, like you see the flowers. So the flowers that I have here, I've learned to get the flowers that can actually grow in my backyard. So I usually get plants that flower versus flowers, you understand? Because the flowers just keep dying off. And so I said, let me just get plants that flower, and they're perennials, and they'll come back each year. So basically, that's how I wound up setting up the backyard, that it can mostly handle itself, the low quartz and everything. Now, how do I know it can handle itself? Well, we got people around me, behind me, and everything. And guess what? They don't do nothing to their, they don't fertilize it. They don't feed it. They don't do nothing, don't cover it, don't do nothing. And they trees flourish, nothing. Now, I would say that with this, they most likely, right, have seedlings that grew into maturity, because seedlings are stronger than grafted trees. I've learned that too, because I have seedlings back here. That they both most likely did seedlings, and that's why their trees are strong, right? And I have a lot of grafted trees, and I have some seedlings. But it really helped me learn a lot. We also help the community a lot. We have a lot of elderly people in our community. So we help by cutting their grass and do all kind of sorts of cutting their trees and stuff. And this takes time, right? And if I have to be back here struggling with my backyard because my house comes first, then I can't help anybody else, right? So, and you know, I like to help the elderly because I'm not getting any younger. I'm in my 60s. And, you know, I also, you know, I don't have to water it a lot because, as you can see, my whole backyard is mulched, right? So people will ask, well, did you You know, just throw the mulch over the grass. Well, I barely had any grass back here. First of all, it was mostly just dirt patches and patches of grass. So actually, I put a whole bunch of cardboard boxes down throughout the whole backyard. And also, in some areas, I put this. So the cardboard boxes down. Here we go with the spider webs. And we had the fabric, you know, the good fabric, right? I put that down. And then wherever we was going to put a tree, we cut a big old gigantic hole in that area, and way larger than, you know, what we expected the tree to be. And then we put the tree down to make sure that the roots would get its water. That's exactly what we did. So yeah, this is the reason why I garden the way I do. I want to come out and just enjoy the garden. I want to come out and just eat the fruits, you know. Like this fruit is almost ready. Let me see, she's almost ready. Yep, I'm going ahead and take her. Something else trying to eat her up. And then I have another one up there. So this one, that one was the Santa Rosa plum. And that one right here is the Methley plums. And of course, you know, Scarlet Beauty is going crazy. So yeah, so when I garden, when you garden, you shouldn't feel overwhelmed if gardening is supposed to be your peace, right? You should be enjoying your garden. You should not be dreading, oh, I have to go back here and I got to do this and that. And I have other things to do. I travel, you know, I have family members to go visit. Just a lot of other things to do. Life does life, right? And I don't want to come back and my whole backyard is in disruption. And now I'm dreading going back there to do the work. So that's the reason why I set it up a certain way. So it's very, very easy to maintain, right? My flowers, my plants rather, are perennials, right? So they also drought tolerant, if you look at them. So when I realized that it was hard for me to grow food in these right here, and no, these are not green stalks, these are just regular whatever, you know, they dry out so quickly, and I could not grow food in here for nothing. You had to keep water in every pocket. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and put drought tolerant plants in here and just let them do what they do. And that's what they do. You know, that makes it easy. Now I can come out and just see the beautiful plants, and they come back to life every year. See what type of, every year. They can take the sun, heat, and the same thing goes with the rest of them, right? Every year. So you'll just notice we heavily mulch or use the pine shavings that we get from Tractor Supply. And these grow back every year. That's Okinawa spinach. Just sit them under the tree. You see all that? Desert roses. And what I actually do is, if something does happen to die, I take a piece off. That desert rose was full. I took a piece off and put it all around every pot in the garden that I could find. Because that's what I do. I just take a piece off and just repot it somewhere else. So that's basically how and why the garden is what it is. Yeah, and that's how we garden. Now, my husband did a lot of grafts this year. Did a lot of grafting, like on our mango trees, which are a seedling. This is a seedling, so he did a lot of grafting on this tree to change it to, you know, a fruit cocktail tree. You got a, you know, Sugarloaf and Bombay, and let's see what other ones. Thai mango, you know, some scions that we got from friends, and grafted this tree. And this one will be called the Lee D mango tree. Hey, it was a seedling, you name it what you want. So yeah, that's basically why my yard is the way it is. I don't use sprays. I don't really have time for it. I use fish emulsion. That's it. Okay, so 2 to 3 times a year I do fish emulsion around there, around the plants, and then just let them go. The main reason why I do fish emulsion is because it's easily available. It lasts a long time, and if they ever stop selling it, I'll go catch some fish and you can do it, make it your own. Something easy, but I don't spray. Is it organic? No, it's not organic. Like most people's yards aren't organic. Just because you go to a big box store and it says their soil is organic doesn't mean it's organic. You got to take their word for it. That's like buying one of their fruit trees and they're saying it's one thing and it grows to be another, right? Unless you actually made the soil yourself, how do you actually know whether it's organic or not? But I will tell you something. the fruits or the veggies that you grow in your backyard is a lot healthier than the ones in the store, organic or not, right? Because when I was growing up, there was no such thing as organic. You just had fresh fruits and vegetables. So I'm not obsessed with all of that. There's people that still go out to eat and everything, and I'm quite sure when they out to eat, wherever they eat and have burgers, pizza, and everything else, that is not organic, right? So what you growing in your backyard is healthier than in the store. Simple as that. And that's the bottom line. I have a lot of fruits back here, and our end result is to not have to go to the store to get any fruits, right? That's our end result. I grow in the wintertime. I grow the cabbages and the collard greens and stuff, right? Because they're cold weather crops. They're not for summer, and they're bulk, right? So I grow those in here, and they are a lot healthier and taste a lot better. I just finished making a pot of collard greens actually 2 days ago, and I'm still eating off of them. That's how much I've harvested. So I will grow a lot of veggies then, but in the summertime, peppers. That's all, because peppers are the only thing that seems to be able to take the heat without me having to interfere. The peppers, right? So I have some leftover tomato plants that's left, but they're slowly going to wherever they want to go to, right? So you got this one right here, and this one right here. But what happens is, you know, they just don't last in my backyard in the summer. It gets too hot and they bolt, so I don't worry about it. I'm more of a fruit gardener, and in the wintertime I grow all my veggies, and I grow a whole lot of them. So we also got to be realistic, right? Can I grow enough veggies to sustain just me and my husband, right, for the whole year? No. Now I can grow a lot of cabbage and collard greens and leafy things like that, right? Because I cut them up and put them in the freezer. Does it sustain us the whole year? It depends on how much I'm cooking them. But as far as sustainability, that's the reason why I wanted mulberry trees, passion fruit trees, peach trees, plum trees. So you get an abundance of fruit. I wanted to make sure I have fruit every month of the year. And that's going to be more sustainable for me than thinking I can grow enough fruits, enough tomatoes to last me a whole year. And I'm quite sure I could if I wanted to put in the work, but I don't want to put in the work right now. I just want to make sure if I ever had to, and that's the reason why I have my garden beds, if I ever had to, that I could, right? Because I know how to grow sweet potatoes and potatoes and all that. But right now, I'm not doing it. So in the summertime, you'll notice I have a lot of just basic flowers in my garden beds. This garden bed will look completely different when October hits, because it'll be full of cabbage and collard greens, just like the rest of my gardening beds I have, right? They'll be full of the foods that I want to stack in my freezer. And then the other ones, veggies that I want to put in the freezer, the other ones I just want to eat because I love the way they taste when I grow them, is carrots, right? So I can't grow enough carrots to sustain us for a year, but we just like the way they taste, so we'll grow that, right? Sweet potatoes, once you put those in the ground, they never go away, right? So you can grow that forever, right? So all of these beds that you see, right, these gardening beds you see, they will all have veggies in there. So in the summertime, I grow enough peppers that can sustain us for the whole entire year. I still got peppers in my freezer from last year, right? Because I saute them and, we eat them with our dinner. So, yeah, when it goes to grow and sustain to the point of sustaining, I don't want to be out here harvesting 1 or 2 leaves thinking I've done something, because I'm not being realistic. I want to make sure that I can at least grow things without me constantly stepping in and interrupting the process, right? Because what happens, a lot of us say, we're growing food because of grocery bills. A lot of us are saying we're growing food for sustainability. A lot of us is growing food in case something happens. So tell me something. If something happened, say next month, and you had to live out of everything that you grew in your backyard only, how long would you be able to feed your family off of what you grew in your backyard? If that's what you're growing for. Because some people are like, I'm just gardening, but also I want things that can actually have some stability, right? But it's 12 months out of the year, 365 days, right? Can you really feed your family off of what you're growing? And it's okay if you can't, but maybe you could concentrate more on, something that maybe you can grow a whole bunch of cucumbers in there, and you got them for pickling, you got them for all that, and you jar them up and you have a whole bunch. Maybe you can grow a whole bunch of peppers, maybe you could grow a whole bunch of squash and jar it up, so make sure that if you're growing for sustainability, that you are growing something that you can have a whole lot of, and it keeps coming back, and it can actually last you for a whole year. Because we know if it ever comes to starvation, we can't sit here and wait 45, 50 days for a plant to grow to eat, right? And you just got to eat, So also remember, well, at least with fruit trees, a lot of the fruit trees you grow in your backyard, you can eat the leaves. You can eat the leaves. You can make tea out of the leaves. So remember that. Look at the fruit trees you got in your backyard, research them, and see if you can eat those leaves. That's important if you were ever hungry. It's better to find out now than have to figure it out later, right? So I always taught my children, always prepare for the worst and hope it never comes. If it never comes, you'll stay well prepared, but you don't have to live in a paranoid life because you just prepared for it and just hope it never comes, right? Instead of trying to prepare as it's there, and you're running around like, it is what it is. So this is my hospital right here. And this is when I call myself interfering with Mother Nature. If I see something doing real bad, I pluck it out the pot or whatever, and I will stick it in here. And it is the hospital because it will recover it in here because I have it shaded, and then in the wintertime I actually have it wrapped in plastic. So everything I put in here recovers, right? This is also where if somebody gives me a cutting or something, it first goes in there to make sure that just to make sure I'm not getting a disease cutting from somebody's backyard or whatever and introduce that disease to my backyard, right? Because I don't do the spraying and stuff. For me, spraying is good for some people. I just don't care for it because I know it's not sustainable. It's going to be a time when things are going to get too expensive and too high, and now my trees are relying on me to come and help them and spray and carrying on, and then I can't, and then that's the end of the tree. So people probably say, well, do you get any diseases in your tree? Well, so far I did on this one right here. So I don't know what happened to it. Don't matter. It's gone. And this was a persimmon tree, right? So that's going to be going to snatch out the ground. It's just basically sitting there waiting for me to put another one down. Now, as far as diseases, I'm quite sure the leaves usually will tell you what disease you have, in the tree. It somewhat gives you an idea. So basically what we do, right, is we look at the area, right, and we strip the leaves off. So we will take every leaf off a tree, right, and watch it grow back. If it grows back with the disease, that limb gets cut. And if we got to keep chopping, you keep chopping. If the whole tree is disease, it's disease. I just don't feel like being bothered with treating the disease. The yard with chemicals and all that type of stuff. Again, it's not sustainable for me, and I have to spend money on other things in life. So let me, for instance, this one right here. This is our lemon guava, right? So I wound up pouring fish emulsion down in this area at the beginning of spring, and this guava tree did not like it. So the leaves look crazy. As you can see, I had stripped every leaf off of this tree. Every leaf. Look how it's growing back, right? It's growing back well. So it just didn't like the fish emulsion. That's it. So what we do is when we see it, we will take every leaf off. We have stripped trees bare, and they just came back. If it comes back with that, and maybe just telling us the tree is diseased, and I'm not going to be bothered with it. It's just gone. So far I haven't had those problems because we don't do too much interference. They will get the fish emulsion 3 times a year. And yeah, that's about it. That's about as much because we go fishing. So, take some fish and you put it under there, and it is what it is. And we get to, save the tree for another rainy day. But, a lot of these trees are grafted, so, could be the rootstock. It could be 5 million other things. I don't know. I'm not a tree expert, I just don't feel like paying for a whole bunch of chemicals that I cannot sustain. I don't care what anybody say. The chemicals that you pay for now, 5-10 years from now, will not be the same price. And will you have the money then Well, heck, when you even had the backyard. But either way, you know, you know, it's just not sustainable. And yep, you just gotta see what works for you. You know, a lot of people, it works very well for them. You know, they spray this and spray that. For me, I just don't have time to be playing. I just have too many things to be doing, and there's too many other trees that's growing in our backyard. We do have a lot of fruit trees. I used to have 110, and I done dropped that down to about 57, giving trees away. I went a little bit crazy buying fruit trees, and just as when I was a beginner, didn't know nothing about them, brought them, didn't care whether they could grow or not in here, didn't try to find out. Then I started studying and learning and giving trees away and not wasting my time anymore. So the trees that's been here, now I'm going around to the 4th year. They doing what they do, and whatever ones are not or did not make it was not meant to be. I didn't even replace them. They was just gone, you know, because at the end of the day, I'm getting older, you know, and, you know, I just don't want to have something that, you know, is going all crazy in the backyard. Okay. But yep, so I know this video was rambling, but this is just to show you what the way I do my gardening, and nobody else's gardening is wrong. However you do your gardening, you know what works in your backyard. I can't come and tell you what's going to work in your backyard. I only could tell you what's going to work in mine, and I'm still studying mine. So don't never let anybody tell you what you're doing wrong or right in your backyard, because if they don't live there, what can they really tell you? They can give you a little bit of advice, but maybe that worked in their yard and it won't work in yours. You ever think about that? You know, and for you to be a very, very good gardener, you have to fail. Things got to die, because that's the only way you're going to learn. Everything you put in your backyard is not going to grow. Things are going to die, and it's okay. You know, it cycles itself out, and it is what it is. Don't beat yourself up about it. But when I come back here, you see this chair right here, I either like to sit here, and this is mostly in the springtime when it's cooler because the sun is there, or I like to sit here on this right here, and I put my little umbrella up. Well, it's a big umbrella. I put it up here and sit here and just look around the garden, and I just enjoy it. Right? I learned not to overstep my bounds, and then know my limitations of what I can and cannot handle. Me and my husband are the only one who did, you know, we do this backyard. Nobody else has helped us in this backyard, and nobody else will. So, you know, I'm not going to put a whole bunch of stuff in here that I can't handle. We made this backyard so that we made sure if someone goes down or sick, the other person can handle this without stress. And that's what we do, right? And whatever soil's on sale is what goes in there. I don't care what soil it is, because people like this chemical and that chemical, yet they go eat pizza, Burger King, McDonald's, they smoke, you know, they drink, you know, everything. And you're worrying about every little thing. Come on, that's just not me, you know. I mean, I'm not no vegan, you know. And yes, you want to eat healthier, and when I'm growing in my backyard, it's healthier, but I can't be sitting here worrying about every drop of soil you put down, every this, every that. Does it have this and that? Does it have? We don't know what these soils have in reality. You read the bag and it is what it is, but how many of you getting it tested every time you go buy a bag at a big box store because it says something, you know? Just like it's in your backyard, you're not throwing chemicals on it, it's healthier than it was in the grocery store. And that's the, you know, end result of all of it, you know. Grow it to the best of your ability. And if you don't want to use that soil, so be it. Don't use it. But don't think because you go into a big box store and you grab something that doesn't say that it isn't the same thing. Because you wasn't there when it was packaged, and you just don't know, you know. So at the end of the day, use whatever soil you need to use to grow whatever you grow in your food. You know, it is what it is, you know. It's just like people just get a little bit too caught up on stuff. And I see the very same people out there, McDonald's and Taco Bell and everything else, and they're not worrying about whether that's organic or not, right? Drink a beer, they're not worrying about whether that's organic or not. But now you're worrying about the few little vegetables in your backyard. You're worrying about, are they super organic? You're like, no. And I don't have a farm. I just have a postage stamp backyard, so I'm not worrying about organic. I just want to grow my fruits. It's not that deep to me. Whoever's on sale, it's going to be on sale, right? Everything's a recall nowadays. So basically, with all this mulch, eventually I'm hoping that I don't eventually have to worry about any more soil. And what I do is when I do grab this soil right here, because I usually use a whole bunch of leaves and stuff to grow my veggies, but when I grab this soil right there, that's because I got the flowers sitting there for whatever, and I could care less about the flowers. After that, because they're in these garden beds, the garden beds sink down, then I put my good stuff on the top, you know, or recycle things or whatever the case may be, okay? So, yeah, let's just enjoy each other's backyard without all the, you know, talking about whether this is that and this is that, whether it's organic, is it this, is that. I'm sorry, unless I make my own soil, which I don't, you couldn't tell me whether it was organic or not anyway, just because I bought it from the store and it says it on the bag, right? Because it is what it is. You're buying what you're buying, and you're just not going to know, so why stress about it, right? So yes, this is a long video right here. I'm rambling, but just wanted to bring you a little, it's not a little video, but just wanted to bring you a little bit about my backyard. Have a blessed day. Goodbye.